Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Business Spotlight, the podcast where we shine a light on the incredible entrepreneurs and business leaders in our community. I'm your host, Craig Whipperman with Music City Action Coach, and today we're excited to introduce you to someone who is blazing a trail in landscape design right here in Nashville. Our guest today is Mike Pruitt with Masters Landscape Design. We'll dive into Mike's background, explore the challenges he's faced, and the successes he's celebrated. Whether you're a fellow entrepreneur, an aspiring business owner, or simply someone who loves to support local business, this conversation is sure to inspire and inform. So without further ado, let's welcome Mike to the podcast. Mike, how you doing today?
Hey, doing great, great, Craig. How are you today?
I'm doing fantastic, man. Tell me about Masters Landscape Design and how it came to be.
Yeah. So Masters, we're about 19 years old as of last month. Um, Formed the Masters company not long after moving to the Nashville area. Relocated about 20 years ago from South Central Virginia. I was born and raised on a farm there in Virginia. And much like a lot of other farm kids, I thought, well, this is what I'll do, right? And it was a great way of living, great way to grow up. But as I grew older and in high school, I realized that it was going to be more difficult to make a living farming. So um, went off to college. I went to Virginia Tech there in Blacksburg, Virginia, and still majored in agriculture along with some landscape management was part of that curriculum. Is kind of how I was introduced to the landscaping. And so, long story short, the landscaping was sort of the next best thing to farming, I guess, at the time. We're talking back in the mid 90s or so, when I first started dabbling in it. And just over the years, I've just been exposed to a lot of things from farming to my stepfather was a builder, got a lot of experience with that, in the winter months. And then I worked with a company right out of college in the corporate world for a while and had started dabbling with the landscaping just as a hobby, really on the side somewhat, and did some custom hire tractor work, things like that for customers. In the company that I was working for, that was based out of Richmond, Virginia, they moved operations to North Carolina, and I just took it. I just said, if I'm gonna move away from home, we're gonna make a move. And I had a friend that lived here in the Nashville area that I had visited a time or two, and just up and moved to the Nashville area, and kind of started from scratch, started all over. Immediately jumped into the residential construction when I first got here, not really knowing anyone, and trying to get going and and sort of rode that wave. Began to form the Masters company. I think it was in 2006 or six, late six, when we formed the company and started handing out some cards. I was doing everything myself while I was doing
Mhm.
some of the residential construction, and then we really took off. I got kicked into business full time during the recession, so construction sort of fell off, and the landscape kind of picked up, and you know, um, surprisingly, and I was very fortunate to land a few nice projects during that 2008-9 era that just sort of catapulted me into business, and yeah, and we've been slowly but surely, growing the design build aspect of what we do ever since. Got a fantastic team. We do about 4 million in revenue each year. Currently with a team of about 12 in-house. We have some outsource companies we work with as well, and yeah, we're just a fantastic team of designers, architects, project management, craftsmen. We do some really, really awesome things, from outdoor living to construction, pool houses, fireplaces, retaining walls, patios, irrigation, site work, design, or design and install of lighting as well. So a lot of the things that we offer. So yeah.
Nice, nice. So the residential construction that brought you to Nashville, were you did you own that business or were you working for someone else at that time?
No, I was just working with someone else at that time.
Okay.
And now later on, say around 2017, 2018, I had a developer friend of mine that I went to church with, um, that had seen some of our work and approached me and said, um, why are you guys not building multi-million dollar houses with some of these, really nice detailed outdoor living spaces? We were building outdoor spaces, seven, 800, $900,000, projects. And I said, this is just what we've been doing, and so we had lunch on a couple of different occasions and decided to form a custom home building company. Um, and through that, we didn't really market it a traditional way. We started building homes for some of our masters customers that we've had over the years, and
Hmm,
so that was a lot of fun, and we're still doing some of that. We're just it's not just our main focus necessarily with that particular company, but we're doing it at a very high level, for the select people that we choose to work with. So
that's pretty cool. Um, and so it sounds like you eased into this landscaping business you say, during the recession, and you got fortunate enough to land a couple of nice jobs. Was it a easy transition for you, or did you kind of struggle with the decision to kind of go on your own, or take us through some of that?
no, I didn't really have any choice. It was basically the company I was working with, doing some of the construction. They kept me on as long as they could, and they were paying me a salary each week, and I was very, very grateful, for all they had done for me, and to this day still am. I was surprised they kept me on as long as they did. We just didn't have anything to do, during that time, when the
Mm-hmm.
housing bubble, finally broke, and we found ourselves just struggling to find work like many construction companies did. But I had been handing out cards on the landscape side of things to all these customers that we had been doing work for. Said, hey, I also do landscape installs, if you retaining walls. I was a one-man show then, and retaining
Mm-hmm.
wall and lighting, irrigation, landscape installs. Um, yeah, feel free to reach out to me if I can help in any way. And the day that I got laid off on the construction side, I was on my way home, and I got a phone call, and this guy says, I don't know if you remember me, but you guys were doing some work for us, some construction work, and you gave me your card about landscaping, and we're ready for some landscaping. Would you be able to look at that and give me a price on it? I said, yeah, yeah, I'll be there in a few minutes if that works. I just, of course, I'm joking there, but I said, yeah, I'll be glad to come out and meet with you and see what we can do to help you. And that's sort of where it started. I think I ended up picking up 4 or 5 other projects in that neighborhood that kept me busy for a few months. And then, of course, when you do good work and stand behind it, someone else, they know others that could use, some work. And then we went through a spell through probably 2011 or 12 to where a lot of people were just spending money on their existing homes, renovating, whether it's rehab on the inside or freshening up their exterior spaces. And so I was really able to capitalize during that time. But it worked out well also from an investment standpoint, because other companies along the way, as I was entering into during that time, that were over leveraged, um,
Mm-hmm.
I was getting equipment for pennies on the dollar.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I remember buying a skid steer for about half of what it cost. It was new.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't have 100 hours on it, so I was very, very blessed and fortunate in that regard as well. Um, and I just focused on keeping my costs down and, just working hard and yeah, but when you love what you're doing, it makes it a lot easier, of course. I've said often, if you need a snooze on your alarm, you're probably doing the wrong thing, right? You may want to look at something else to get into
Yeah.
for work and
Yeah.
here. So yeah,
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Yeah, no question. When you love what you do, and if you've kind of found a purpose to fulfill, it's like a magnet that just kind of draws you to it.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So tell me what's your biggest learning that you've had um, starting, uh, nurturing, growing your business now to where it's at? What's the biggest learning you've had over that period?
Um, that people are crazier than anybody. Yeah. Um, no, I think really just sort of navigating the journey, I call it, of business in general. It's just realizing, I think, as an entrepreneur that um, it's almost a weekly, monthly, yearly thing of how much you really don't know. And even when you think you've got it all figured out, there's usually a humbling experience that comes along that and it just you just go, you know what? Gosh, I thought I was much farther along than that, and I should understand this or that. And so I've learned to just to be a constant learner. Leaders are learners with what we're doing, and so um, but I've also learned, um, the more I know, the more I know I need to know. But I no longer chase after things that some people chase after when they get into business. When a lot of times when people start a business, they see an opportunity for, you know, um, making a lot of money, having freedom and flexibility to do what they want to do when they want to do it. And yes, some of these can be perks, of course, of being an entrepreneur and being successful at what you're doing. I don't chase any of these things. I don't chase money. I don't chase materialistic things about business and life. I don't chase after any of those things. I focus on solving the highest level of problems that I can solve every single day. And I know it sounds cliche, but I can't stress this enough. I don't chase any of those things. They're all a vacuum. They're all
Mm,
like chasing my shadow. And I had to
mm,
learn that the hard way. Um, but much like your shadow, the moment I turned around and started focusing on things that were really important in my life and in business, that shadow began to chase me. That was representative of money and opportunity and relationships and the certain types of team members and workforce that I'm looking for. You name it. Um, all those things begin to chase me, right? And so I don't focus on the materialistic aspects of what we do. I focus on solving high level problems, and I think those in business that solve the highest level of problems are just by default rewarded at the highest level.
mhm,
Peace of mind, education and understanding, wisdom, learning, all of that. Financially, having the freedom, um, to do a lot of the things that they want to do and explore the things that they want to explore. It comes with time. It's funny how when if you work for a company, if you work as a salaried employee or W-2 employee, at first it's easy. You just get a check every day. All you have to do is show up and do what you're asked to do, and you get a check, and it's easy. And I did that for a long time. But over time, it gets more and more difficult because maybe your wage isn't increasing, right? Maybe the things that you wanted, the amount of vacation that you get, these things are just not increasing at a level that you feel like it should be. So over time, it tends to get constricting and quite tough.
mm,
Um, whereas with entrepreneurship, it is extremely difficult at first. And for those that have the grit and the tenacity and the stomach for being able to just embrace the suck of what's coming at you, the uncertainty, the unknown, at first it's very, very difficult. But over time, if you just keep showing up and really putting in the time, and it's so much easier when you love what you're doing, of course. But over time, it begins to get easier and easier and simpler. And it seems like these constricting tunnels and paths that you've been traveling all of a sudden are now opening up to much greener, greener pastures, and you're able to breathe. And and enjoy, your family and life. And so that's what I have noticed over the past almost 20 years now of being in business is that the first probably 10 or 12 years I was in business, I lived in survival mode. From the time my feet hit the floor in the morning, I was in survival mode, trying to be in control of the day and everything around me and my surroundings. Um, and then all of a sudden, it was like you flipped a switch one day, um, and I was no longer living in survival mode. The phone was ringing. The right team members were coming to us. The right types of customers were coming to us because all the efforts of marketing and looking for that ideal avatar and customer, the ICP, the ideal customer profile, all these things began to come together over time. And now all of a sudden, I'm able to breathe much easier. And that's been very refreshing, to have a clear mind each day and not be living in survival mode. We've got work coming in. We've built a great brand. We have a great team. And then we're just continuing to expound on that by, really solving high level problems anywhere and anytime we can.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's an awesome story, dude. The transition, would you call it a 12-year transition?
I would say we're like a 12-year overnight success.
There you go. That's
Yeah,
it.
yeah, I'm telling you, and some people go, I'm just not waiting that long. I would not wait 12 years. If you love what you do and maybe you're not knocking it out of the park, but you're making a living, right? And you're learning and you're getting by, and you keep the faith. I think it does open up for everyone, no matter what you're doing, right? But you just got to hang in there. You got to stick with it. And for us, it just seemed like that. It seemed like all of a sudden people knew who we were, you know.
Mhm.
Oh, we see your trucks everywhere. We see your guys. You guys do fantastic projects. I'm like, we've been doing fantastic stuff for like the last, 10, 12 years. But now people, it's sticking. It's really resonating, and people, um, people are noticing, and we sort of, created a brand. I think that's so important in business is what are you doing to create a solid brand? Because for the longest time, you yourself, as the founder of the organization, you are the brand. What
Mhm.
does that look like? And so, yeah, again, we've done a lot of work. We've done some great things, but I feel like in a lot of ways we're just getting started, and I'm excited about it. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, it sounds like the biggest learning is being perseverant, and sounds like following a dream. If is knowing what you want and persisting towards it. Yeah, it sounds like following a dream. Doing things you love and that are rewarding, if nothing more than for the fact that you're doing them. Uh, that's what keeps you alive, right? It's what keeps you going.
I had a job that was right at $1 million one time. And it was back when I was only doing about 200,000 or 300,000 annually. And so we had bitten off more than most people would ever want to take on, right? But let's get it, man. We can get this done. And I had a vision that we could do it, and we did. We did a great job at it. But I got a lot of my gray hair from that job too. I tell people often, I said, well, first my first $1 million job cost me $1 million. I think it was $982,000 in revenue on that project. And I think my costs were 978,979. Yeah, it was a stressful, good gosh almighty. But I learned so much, and that
Yeah,
was well worth that education
yeah,
that I went through during that time of a lot of what to do. I grew up really quickly, in one project like that, to learn what to do and what not to do, so I'm very thankful for that, So, but yeah,
yeah. You mentioned earlier there too about um, not getting to a point where you know it all. You have to be continually learning and open and aware. And it reminded me of a quote from Albert Einstein. I don't know if you've ever heard this before. He says, "I have no talents." This is Albert Einstein.
Yeah.
"I have no talents. I am only passionately curious." You know?
Yeah.
So, I mean, a guy who is pretty darn smart and knows a lot of stuff is pretty humble about it and, admits to being just very, very curious about what's going on. And I think that's a beautiful quote because it's the mindset that everybody should have. So as to, steer away from this, I know it and I don't need to learn anymore kind of attitude.
That is so true. And, we live in a society now that chases things and happiness.
Yeah.
And as a believer in Christ, there's nowhere in the Bible that says we're to be happy, you know.
Hmm.
Joyful, yes. But we seem to be a society that chases, likes on social media and who likes us, who just chasing these things that are kind of empty. Um, and no one wants to go through the difficult things and the transition of what it takes to, everybody wants to lose 50 pounds, but they're not willing to go to the gym 4 or 5 days a week. They don't want to have to go through that as far as that's concerned. And that's very, to me, that's something that I notice a lot. And I think it was philosopher um, Oliver Wilde that said in a quote, the rarest thing in life, the rarest thing in the world is to live. Most people just exist.
Yeah. Right.
And just hearing that and understanding that, I really myself try to lead with intentionality. Every single day, be intentional with my approach to that day. My why is to plant as many trees as I can that I'll never sit under. Someone else will. Someone
Hmm.
else someday, somewhere will enjoy the shade of each one of them.
Hmm.
What am I doing to be on purpose with that
Yeah.
each and every day?
Yeah. That's awesome, man. So, that reminds me of the Simon Sinek thing. People don't do business with people because, or businesses don't do business with other businesses because of what they do or how they do it, but because of why they do it, you
Yeah.
know? And, just like you explained that why, other people are kind of resonates with others, that's your way of building community and building, I mean, throughout what it is you're doing, you're impacting other people's lives,
Yeah.
what you
I think
do.
it's very interesting. God saw a problem here on earth and he made each one of us as an individual as an answer to that problem.
Hmm.
But the most interesting thing to me about God is he never tells us what that is.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you, Craig.
Yeah.
You'll figure it out. Take off, and he knows all along what it is, but he
Yeah.
never gives it away to you because our futures, our destiny that is to be discovered. And
Right. Right.
it's just wonderful.
Right, right. And that's living, that's living, seeking God's guidance, seeking your purpose and taking that step out into the world. That's more than existing, right? That's living a life.
Yeah.
So I'm right there with you. So over the last how long did you say uh, that your business has been in place?
It's
Eight?
19 years, going on 20 now.
19.
Master's company
Wow.
has been good.
19.
So, and I've since branched into some other stuff. They're more of a hobby, for me, but
Yeah.
I've I've got some real estate businesses as well for real estate investing.
Hmm.
I invest in some properties out of state, out of town. Um, and that's kind of more of a long-term play, but I'm learning a lot from a lot of people in that world that have been doing it a lot longer than I have, and so that's been a lot of fun, experiencing that as well. So yeah.
What do you see for Masters Landscape Design over the next 5 to 10 years? What's your vision for it?
Um, So probably over the next 5 to 10 years, someone else will run it. You're not a success until you raise up a successor. And I'm
Hmm.
already looking for who else, I'm 48 now, and I'm looking for who else could run this. Um, I'm not going to be the guy if I have anything to do with it that's 78 years old, and they have to take me out of the business toes up, kicking and screaming, or whatever the case may be. Um, I'm just I'm very intentional right now thinking about that exit strategy and who else could take over um, and run the organization. So it's just important to me to do a great job in leading the team that I have now and solving these very high level problems. And I think the better job I do at that is going to show up when I am no longer around, right? And for the day to day, activities that someone else is at the helm. Um, is it a Jim Collins good to great kind of business, right? I mean, is it a business that has the staying power even beyond me? And I think that's going to be a true testament of what I was able to accomplish. To me, that's where the real reward is. But we're looking to by 2020, we're in 2025 now, end of 2026. We're going to be just over five, right at 6 million in revenue, and then by the time we get into 2028, we're looking to really catapult that between 2026 and 28 to about 10 million, somewhere between the 10 and 12 million. But we're going to do that not just out there beating the pavement, right? We're going to our approach to that is going to be more um, of an acquisition,
Hmm.
strategic, with acquisitions, and then some additional services that we're looking to launch an additional service within the organization as we speak. I just hired someone to spearhead that. Just create a larger umbrella to help solve that many more problems for some of our customers. So. Um, Especially as far as estate maintenance and care is concerned. We just realized that some of these projects that we're putting in, people spend 150, $500,000 on an outdoor living project or a landscape construction project, and then don't know how to take care of it, or their lawn care people providers are not able to take care of it. So, um, and we're going to be able to. I think there's a real void there throughout the Nashville area, needing someone to come in and pick that up. So, we're excited to see what might happen with that too. So,
Interesting. So is that when the void or the gap, do you see it in maintaining the the greenery, the actual plant living, or is it the structures, or where's the gap that you
it's
see?
all of it, but primarily, it's all of it, but it's primarily the greenery, the plant disease and health maintenance, also maintenance of hardscapes and, sealing and protecting. Same thing with the structures. A lot less on the structures, of course, um,
Yeah,
but specifically on the bed maintenance, things of that nature. That where people just their lawn care people don't maybe they're not as savvy in trimming or plant disease control, things like that. To where
yeah,
more of a subscription base is what we're looking to launch with that. So
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's interesting that there's not services out there that are already kind of targeting that. I guess there are some, but maybe they're
Yeah.
not canvassing the right places, you
Yeah,
know?
you have some of your much larger companies that are handling more from a commercial standpoint, but not
Hmm.
necessarily residential standpoint. Um,
Hmm.
so we're working on that now to see, we're getting a lot of requests for it. So we're gonna see if we can get that team built out as well. So yeah.
So tell me where you think the biggest challenges in the industry, in landscape design and installation. What's the biggest challenge that the industry faces?
I think the biggest challenge right now that we're finding is is there's a real gap from the time young people get out of school, college, high school, college, whatever the case may be, that want to enter the industry of doing what we're doing. Um, there's not enough, tailored, structured approaches for um, apprenticeship type programs. You have that on electrical, HVAC. Yeah, it's much more prevalent in those industries, but in the landscaping, even in carpentry, in a lot of cases, it's just it's few and far between to see anyone that has a well-designed apprenticeship program. And so we're currently in the early stages of working with Caterpillar company and some of the schools, colleges, um, colleges, high schools to go in next year and talk to a lot of these kids about um, the possibilities. If you'd have told me just a handful of years ago that I'd have landscapers making into six figures working with me, I would have said, no, we're in the landscape business. Guys, they don't make that kind of money. No, no, that's absolutely wrong. But I'm telling you, it's been proof that when you pay when you pay really good wages for really good team members, man, it shows up. It really does, and we're example of that right now. And so, um, I think if you would have a if you would have a conscious approach to instead of building a company, I've learned not to focus on building the company, but build the people. Build the people will build the company. And so that's been the approach kind of going forward. And we're really structuring everything around what we're doing to really focus on our team and focus on the people. And yeah, so the apprenticeship program would be a step in the right direction for that. So giving kids that right out of school, right out of high school, college, somewhere to go through a structured apprenticeship program, and then they know exactly what type of salary they're going to be making some really good money right on the backside of this thing. Because to organically hire someone in the landscape construction industry, like where we're at now with irrigation, hardscaping, pavers, concrete, effective machinery operation, all these moving parts, it takes about 5 years on average to grow the right person. Just hiring someone that comes in with no experience, and they've got what Gino Wickham calls with the traction book. They've got the GWC. They get it, they want it, and they have the capacity. They have all three
Mhm.
of the necessary ingredients. It still takes, even if they have everything it still takes about 5 years for them to just be no questions asked. They can take a set of plans, a crew of 3, 4, 5 men, go out with no direction, little to no direction, and install a, you know, $200,000-300,000 project, for example. So
Yeah. So you guys are looking to take on and develop an apprenticeship type program, I guess. Is
yeah,
that
yes, sir. Yep.
that's
And Caterpillar is going to come in and join us, I think, and maybe a couple of other companies. They're really struggling with mechanics for the
mhm.
heavy equipment stuff. And so talking to Thompson Cat here in the Nashville area, they're excited to come in with us when we meet with the schools and when we meet with the colleges and things, to just share what's possible. You know, we're even going to start having, not necessarily a career day, I wouldn't call it, but an opportunity for young people to come out, either on their own or with their parents, depending on age, and have an opportunity to run a lot of this equipment. Get on an excavator, get on a track machine, a skid steer, go dig a
Mhm.
hole, go load a truck, and at least to expose them to what it would be like to be in that type of industry. And we're hoping that will spiral into the same thing with carpentry and some other trades, that masonry, that people would be interested in, and just really trying to, because I'm telling you, an a young man getting into HVAC, electrical, landscaping, any of these types of trades now, let's face it, it's coming a time very soon that they're going to go to a doctor's house and they're going to service his HVAC or they're going to work on his landscape at the doctor's mansion to then get in their truck and then go home to a mansion twice the size because they make twice the money the doctor does. And this is a
Yeah.
real thing. This is an absolute real thing. And and I think not everyone wants to go to college to be a doctor, whatever. We need all those things. But for those kids that want to get into the trades or young people, or maybe they're adults that say, I want to make a change and they want to get into the trade in some way, we want to try and do our best, to create that avenue for them as well. So,
Yeah. 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 It seems like there's a shortage, but there's also, I've seen some articles, that there's more kids now going to tech school
yes.
than there has been in the past. I guess it's a kind of a growing trend. It's not meeting demand, but I think the attraction of a better salary than what's been there in the past is luring people down that path.
Yeah.
So that's going to be an interesting shift to see. So, Mike, if it's okay, I'm gonna rip off some rapid fire questions to you to kind of bring us down the home stretch. Is that okay?
Let's do it.
All right. So, what is the key to success for you? What would you say the key to success is?
Taking care of people.
Taking care of people. Perfect.
I think if you're taking care, whatever you take care of will take care of you. And
Yeah.
whether that's a relationship, the business company you work for, whatever the case may be, just taking care of people.
That's
Help.
awesome.
Zig Ziglar said, if you help enough other people get to where they want to be in life, God will make sure you get to where you want to be.
Very, very true. What is one piece of advice you would give to other business owners?
Um, Embrace the suck. Yeah, you either have problems or you're going to have problems.
Yeah.
You can have either one you want, but take your pick.
Yeah.
And you get comfortable being uncomfortable, that's when success is going to be right around the corner. It won't be
Mhm.
long. But yeah, just get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And
Yeah. I like embrace the suck better. That should be on a t-shirt, you know?
that's right. Yeah. Yeah.
What is okay? So now here's the hard part. What
Yeah.
is one book, or you can tell me multiple books. The question is, what is one book, maybe you're reading now or you've read in the past, that has had the most impact on you?
Yeah. I love this because I hated books when I was in school, all through school, but I think I read 98 this past year. But probably one that stands out to me the most. Um, I just finished one the other day by Mel Robbins called Let Them, which is fantastic. I think everyone should read that. But from a business standpoint, for personal and professional, I think this book really, really was an eye opener for me. And I think about it many times every single day now that I've read it. I've actually read the book twice. Um, is a book called The Big Leap by Gay
Oh,
Hendricks.
mhm,
And it really just the sort of a synopsis of the book is essentially he um, a couple things. One, he gets you to understand that we all are wired with naturally with an upper limit switch, which is one of the reasons why we sort of push success away from us. Same reason why sometimes people will hit the lottery for $2 million, right? And be broke 18 months later. They
mhm.
they they they, they hit that upper limit switch and self-destruct as far as that's concerned. And in this book he really helps to navigate how to bypass that switch and understand that yes, you are worthy. But one of the biggest takeaways on the book is, you know, we oftentimes work diligently to operate in our zone of excellence. We work really hard. It's the same reason that a lot of people, a lot of business owners, a lot of successful people end up in what I call a six-figure rut. They get to a point their house is paid for, or they're able to make their house payment. They have a vacation home, they have a boat, they take a lot of, they can breathe and relax, and so they just end up coasting with wherever they're at, and essentially they're working within their zone of excellence. They can do whatever they're doing every single day with one hand behind their back, and they seem to be comfortable with that. They worked a lot of years to get to that point. There's nothing wrong with that. But Gay talks about a principle of working in your zone of genius. And your zone of genius is your true purpose for all of us. I think it's a combination of what you're really good at, what you enjoy doing the most, and what you can do that's most impactful in your community, your family, society. Right in the center of that, where all those circles interconnect, whatever that sweet spot is, that's your zone of genius. That's your true purpose, and why God created you. I firmly believe. So, he gave an example in the book. As a youngster, he got a deal on watermelons and he sold them at a stoplight near his home for 25 cents a piece for a watermelon. And he sold a couple. He went back the next day. He had cut some of these watermelons into small slices and sold them for a nickel a piece that he could hand people just like a cone of ice cream through the window. And he made a pile of money working in his zone of genius, not his zone of excellence, So,
Mhm.
yep.
Yeah, that's good stuff. It's been some time. I'm pretty sure I read that book. I need to pull it back out and read it. And that's a good one.
Yes.
Um, uh, so share with me now. I'm going to switch gears on you a little bit. If you
Yeah.
could, we're going to talk about your business. If you could magically improve one area of your business tomorrow, what would it be?
um, I That's a toss up, I think. Uh, Tomorrow, based on where we're at now, I think if I can magically improve something in our business, it's really neck and neck between marketing and recruiting.
Mhm.
Um, and so I'm going to pick marketing because that does kind of tie into how we recruit as well. So just getting better, if we could flip a switch and make some things happen from a marketing perspective, because we put a lot of money and time into that, for both recruiting and for that ICP, that ideal customer profile. So yeah, I'd say probably marketing. There's no silver bullet for that. I've not found, and if there's someone out there, please message me and let me know if you found something that really really works well and is moving the needle at a very high level for you. I'd love to be introduced to that. So
Yeah, well, marketing is one of those. I don't know. Sometimes some folks can maybe think of it as kind of a black magic thing. You kind of spend money maybe a little bit blindly, expecting things to happen, and they don't. But it's not unlike troubleshooting any kind of system and expecting some kind of return on investment. And if it's not working, then you got to tweak it and change it. It's like, and then you got to alter it and do this and try that, and it's like keep tweaking it. And so, who is your ideal customer, if you don't mind me asking?
yeah, so our ideal customer is someone that's going to be an empty nester, to start with. So they're going to be mid 50s and beyond. They're a business owner, or perhaps they've sold a business. Um, it's most always the wife, very rarely ever the husband. She usually finds us and hands us off to the husband to go, hey, I found someone. Here you go, Craig. Talk to Mike. Mike's he's with such and such XYZ, master's landscape design. And they play pickleball at 10:30 in the morning, or tennis. They love to golf. They love to travel. They're high net worth people,
Hmm.
regardless. Um, and they're typically people that don't have the time nor the desire to just go out searching for someone like us to come in and solve these problems. Um, and they usually don't know what they want. So an ideal customer for us is someone that goes, hey, I've got a budget of $500,000. I want to, we're trying to encourage the grandkids and our kids to come here and spend time. So my wife has talked me into building a pool, outdoor living space, outdoor kitchen, fireplace. Maybe the kids and our grandkids will want to come over and spend more time, which is fantastic. And they're so right about that. And that usually works. But those are some of our ideal customers or avatar, if you would. So
Yeah. Yeah. And so uh, a home that has probably been built for some period of time, then 10, 20 years maybe, that you're being asked to kind of renovate the outside.
yeah, I'd say that's a large portion of it. And then new construction. Perhaps they're building a brand new home. We just finished up a project. Well, we've done multiple things on it, but we finished up some stuff recently, about a month or two ago. But um, one of the Tennessee Titans football players, we did a quite large, sizable project for brand new construction home. Um, and they wanted to make it exactly like they wanted it, and so we were able to help our design team. We were able to go through and navigate that. Most of them have no clue what they want to do. They just know they want to do something, and they expect us, and they should, and they call on us for the vision of what's possible, what can be created, and what it's going to cost, and how we're going to get there. So we sell nothing. There's no salespeople in our company. They're only consultants, um,
Hmm.
because we're just merely there to educate. You don't need me to sell you anything. You knew you wanted this space when you called. You just don't really know what you want. We're here to educate you on what's possible based on your budget, based on what you'd like to do, and your current ideas and your family and how you're living. And this is how we can make it a reality. And
Hmm.
so people buy the people that buy from us are not buying with their wallets. They're buying with this is not transactional, right? A leaky
Hmm.
faucet, call a plumber. It's transactional. This is very emotional. These are very emotional purchases, and I find that most of the customers that we work with, um, we just establish the greatest level of comfort with that customer. We answered their questions, and when we walked away from the meeting, if they met with two or three other companies, they're typically going to go 20, $30,000 is not going to be it's not going to be a deal breaker if they're that comfortable with you and your company. And so
Hmm.
we try to make sure that we're answering those questions and really setting them up for success on the front end. And I find that if we educate people well enough, we usually we usually do business with them.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've heard it said, say that's what sales is. You're professionally educating people to buy,
But
you
we
know?
also say no a lot more than we say yes.
So
I would
you're,
I would say 9 out of 10 potential customers that call us, at least 8 out of 10, we I'm sorry, we're not able to we're not able to help you. We just and maybe 2 years ago we could have, but we have grown as a company into solving a certain level of problems that we don't veer from. So we're not out chasing every project out there. We're not looking for everything that we can get our hands on. We're not in business with every other landscaper running around in the bottom of the barrel. I want to compete with one or two, maybe three companies in Nashville, not 200. And
hmm
so we're really focused on the high level niche type work. Um, yeah, and we say no often. Um, and it was a little bit weird at first when we started adopting that back in 2019, 2020. But now I'm sorry, we're not gonna be able to help you. But hey, we have great referral partners, and my assistant has a list. When calls come in the office, they have a list of top-notch referral partners where we're able to help other young up and coming, landscapers or lawn care providers, whatever the case may be. And we feed them some really good work. Maybe they're, two, three, four, $5,000, $10,000 projects. But something that we know is going to save the customer money on and that they can do profitably, and everyone's happy. And so
hmm
So yeah, we really focus on the work that we're set up and built to perform.
Yeah. Mike's been great having you as a guest on the show here. So tell the folks if they're interested in maybe they are your ideal customer. Where can they find you?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, a few different ways, Craig. Um, I would invite anyone and everyone check out our website, to get a taste of kind of what we do. Go visit our gallery. You can see the types of work we do, but it's masterslandscapedesign.com. And we're actually located in Mount Juliet, Tennessee, as our home office and shop. But we're throughout Middle Tennessee. Within an hour of Nashville, typically is our working radius. But even if they just have questions, they can reach out through that website with questions. They can also reach me by phone. At 615-288-2052 is how to contact us. And then my email is just my name and then the name of the company. It's Mike@masterslandscapedesign.com. And yeah, even if it's just questions that we can help them answer and navigate, whether it be a customer looking for something or, perhaps even other business owners, looking for, that may be interested in getting into the business. And I think ultimately, I ask people oftentimes, if every job in the world paid $5 an hour, what would you do? This is mine,
Mhm.
helping other people. What can I say? What can I do that's going to help someone else avoid a pitfall that they otherwise wouldn't have avoided? And so I'm glad to help anyone anywhere I can, and so don't hesitate to reach out, of course. So
Perfect. Perfect. Thanks for that, Mike. And thanks for your time today. And again, thanks for being a guest. Much appreciated. We'll talk again soon. Okay.
absolutely, thanks, Craig. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Enjoyed it.